Why don't you two introduce each other and I'll let you guys choose who's going to go first. I think that'd be fun.
The greatest co-director ever at DreamWorks Animation. It's Stephanie Ma Stein.
And I am so lucky to present my incredible mentor, the director of Kung Fu Panda 4, Mike Mitchell.
You know what I love the most, actually, now that I've watched the film, I see it play out in front of my eyes, right? We're talking about mentor, mentee. How much of that flavored the kind of story beats as you were going through? I'd be really curious about that.
That's interesting because I will say that we did live our theme about change, like that change is scary for any age. You know, I always say, like, even for kids, like going from grade school to junior high and junior high to high school, it's scary, but it's the same for grown-ups. Like we go from job to job and you know, change is scary. Like even committing, Stephanie, to making another Kung Fu Panda 4, we better do it right. It better be fantastic. There's a lot of like anxiety in that, but as our theme showed, there's great joy, and you don't lose anything that you were. You just build upon what's there and be embraced.
I think what's great about Poe's, journey and arc is that he has to learn, how to be the next, spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, and so he needs to gain wisdom. And as you can see from the movie, he's like, "What does that even mean? What does it mean to like to get wise?" So I don't even know the sayings and blah blah blah, right? But I think that
Mm.
we tackled his particular journey for this movie from the angle of like him needing to learn that the world isn't so black and white. That
Mm.
this that this character, this fox thief, is someone that he may have been sort of unwillingly paired up with,
Mm.
but it was really great for him to learn, and to go through this world with with this Fox character, to to see her point of view, to be challenged by her, and then at the end to learn that there's something to be gained, and to learn from every single person. Like every single person has value, and
Mm.
like he became wiser in like being able to see that value in everyone, including the thieves. Not just Jen, but also the Den of Thieves. And I think that's something that I saw in Mike from the very beginning. He
His
sees the
thieving nature.
potential.
Yeah.
Oh, he just he
Yeah,
just
I'm a
he
thief.
just sees the good. Yeah, no,
I'll
he
steal a
just
good idea, Cole. I don't care who says it. I'll steal it and I'll claim it as my own.
yeah, but he definitely sees the good and the potential in like every single one of the
Mm.
cast and crew, and he was able to bring out the best in all of us. So I think there's pretty strong parallels there between Poe
And
and
I
Mike.
got a lot of wisdom from Stephanie as well. You know, like Stephanie brought just a whole new flavor to this franchise and had such
Mm.
detailed information about the franchise. I mean, I've worked on these other ones, but Stephanie knew more about the previous Kung Fu Panda movies than
You're
I've met.
downplaying your
So
own knowledge.
honest.
It's hard to take a compliment, right? You know,
Yeah.
it's just, it's tough. There's a lot of really interesting building blocks that you guys have layered on top of this. You know, this idea of a character that's been established is a very particular way, being the Dragon Warrior, and um, the identity that comes with that is now, whoa, can I not, I'm not that person. Do I have to be something else? You know, the next stage forward. That's as a first level as a building block, incredible. Second one then is like introducing a character like Jean that challenges his point of view in a narratives piece. But on the third part, you've got another building block underneath that. It's like Lego clicking in, that the antagonist is this shape shifting sorceress, you know, and the potential in each one of these layers is staggering. So balancing all that can't be easy.
Well, that was the villain was the toughest one for me because
Mm.
this is I think one of the best franchises, the best franchise that DreamWorks has ever made. And it's not just it's
Mm.
Jack Black is a big part of that. He is this panda, and you don't expect that he could do kung fu so well, and it's made for animation. but my biggest thing was like, I think this has the best villains ever created from any animated film. I just think these villains are so rich and so deep and so fascinating. And so that was like your third thing was when we did this villain, we wanted her to be just the greatest villain for Poe to face. And at the same time, how can she encapsulate our theme at the same time? So wasn't easy.
Each movie that is super tightly constructed makes full use of each of those building blocks, like you said. And for us, it's absolutely essential. You can't take out one block without everything else crumbling, right?
Which it did a few times. It crumbled a few times.
We tried.
Like a Jenga, like a bad Lego.
Yeah.
That's storyboarding.
But the overarching theme of embracing change, that is something that we thought would be super challenging for us to tackle, but also kind of a challenge for the audience too. And I mean this in a good way, because I think the thing that like so many audiences like get tired of with like superhero movies is that the same superheroes, they don't really change a lot. Like they might go on a somewhat small different path or whatever, but like they're basically the same characters. I think Logan, that movie, like it tackled it really well. What happens when superheroes get old? But but for us, it was just like, well, we can't have Poe be the same exact character every single time. I mean, in his heart, yes, he is the same. But if we wanted to bring this story to the next level, why are we making Kung Fu Panda 4? Why is it great for theaters? It really is to say like he's not just stopping here. He's moving on. He's ascending to to become the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace. And so for him to learn to embrace change, that was our like number one theme. And for the antagonist to showcase a sort of antithesis to that, where yes, she changes on the outside, but she doesn't actually change on the inside. They sort of battle it out, not just physically in the third act, but also mostly over the soul of Jen, our Corsac Fox, played by Awkwafina. So you can really see how Poe's journey of like attaining wisdom actually not just affects himself, but also this like at first really annoying sidekick that has to go on this journey with him, and then he learns more about her, and they all change for the better except for the chameleon, who
No spoilers. Don't tell them what. Don't give the ending away.
Yeah, don't put that in an interview.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on, there's some predictability in story is always going to be the ending, right? It's never going to be the middle. So if you can catch me in the middle, then you'll get me at the end. So don't worry. And I think there's something really magical in what you're saying of, obviously right now in America, people, not so much in Ireland, we're having a great time, but in America, there's like, it's a pretty radical shift in terms of the industry is shifting and changing. And there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of doubt as to what the future is. There's all these things of new tools emerging, new processes emerging. Nobody's quite sure what's going on. There's companies hiring, companies firing, and all this kind of stuff. And, it really puts to mind the idea that change is inevitable. And it's like, how do you engage with that change? And what you said that really struck me is like, obviously Poe at each stage, it was always a challenge in the first three films, but what's next is change. If it's not challenged, then it's change.
I think it's relatable too, because I always think of kids, maybe going from grade school to junior high or from junior high to high school. If we can remember back, it's filled with anxiety. There's a lot of fear in change. And even as an adult, like moving from one location to the next, or even in animation, going from job to a different job, or like I often go from one studio to the next. And there's a lot of anxiety and worry involved. But I'm hopeful that the story that we told with Poe is that when you move on to something else, you're not losing who you were, you're building upon. So let's hope that like even with, I mean, it's been that way with technology. I mean, that was really scary. I remember at DreamWorks when it was at Universal and they pushed all those hand-drawn desks uh, uh, that I had at Cal Arts into the hallway. It was like a funeral. It was like a graveyard of those old desks. It was terrible. And we all were freaking out. We're like, what is going to happen? But they very nicely gave courses of CGI, and this new technology came in. And once it was embraced, I don't think any of us think about that anymore. We're like, oh, on to the next. And we haven't lost the past. We still have wonderful 2D movies that are winning awards and that everyone's going to see, and it still dominates. And yet we're still using the top technology that was just invented a week ago for Kung Fu Panda 4. And it's all about just going with the flow and not bending with the breeze and not breaking. And I feel that I'm hopeful that our film gets that across, and however you experience change, that it doesn't have to be anxiety. It can be an evolution and filled with joy and filled with confidence.
Completely agree. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say more there.
No, except for AI. Yeah. I was going to say AI is going to destroy everything. So.
I could just just a little addendum. But when it comes to like changing technologies and especially the speed of it, I think we are definitely in unprecedented times. But I have a lot of hope because everyone that I've talked to, they've adapted. They've found a different way to to continue to be creative and to tell their own stories. So there's always going to be avenues for that. Whether or not we'll still be seeing like $100 million budget movies, that could be rarer and rarer, right? But there's no way to kill the human creative spirit, and so no matter what is actually introduced, I don't think people who really want to create will ever stop creating.
I also don't think the audience is changing. I think if you make a great film, everyone's going to come and see it. And if you make a funny film, everyone wants to laugh. And I'm not convinced that the audience is changing, but there is something that's changing because of the technology. Is there's so many more branches of what people want to see. So it's like really just like segmenting out, which is an exciting time where it's like, oh, there's several different paths or different, I mean, Cartoon Brew demonstrates this all the time with their short films. Look at all the different styles and the different ways to animate and the different things you can animate with. And I think that's like an exciting time where there are no rules. We're not following a template of what a giant audience wants to see. There might be more there to it. So I don't know if that sounds vague. I could talk forever about what's not going to happen or what might happen.
There's two things I'll touch on. It's funny you talk about the animation desks. I remember talking to Tom Moore and Paul Young and Cartoon Saloon about, when they started their studio, they were focusing on hand-drawn and all the other studios were moving to 3D. So they had they bought all the old animation desks, literally bought them for like a really low cost, and that really served them well. And look how well they're doing.
I inherited Bob Persichetti had an old-fashioned, like wooden, beautiful with the disc in the middle, and I inherited it. Like he left it behind.
Wow!
So I took it.
You just took it.
Yeah, I'm an old guy. I know how to use those. I love it. Love it.
Yeah,
he allowed me. He said I could use it. He didn't want it. He couldn't fit it into his car to take it home, I think.
And I actually forgot what I was going to say, so I'll just move on to the next question. The speed as to which technology is developing, and you guys have obviously embraced that hardcore in this film. It seems to be the future of CG, at least, is in artistic hybrid styles. So could you talk a bit about, what you guys have done, engaged stylistically in this movie that you hadn't done in the past?
Well, I'll just say quickly, my favorite thing is not only has the technology evolved since the last three, certainly since the first film, but the last three films, but camera styles have evolved, and I'll let Stephanie talk about that. But I was really excited by Kung Fu fighting styles have evolved, and we got to work with some live action stunt people came in that worked on a bunch of Marvel films, and they showed us some. And Poe's got this staff that he's got now in this film from Uruguay, and they performed some really cool, authentic Kung Fu moves and like worked out a bunch of our fight sequences with us. And that was something that like we didn't have access to that in the previous three movies. And it was so neat to see how much, sure, technology has evolved, but all this stuff we don't think about, like even fighting styles. And it added, and Stephanie was really clear to make sure that fighting styles reflected the personality of each character, not just our leads, but every character had a very specific style. But you could also talk about the camera too, Stephanie, if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing for sure that like this movie has that the previous three don't is, is the GoPro. But we didn't just throw it in just because it's like, oh, we've never seen a GoPro in a Kung Fu Panda movie before. It was very much like a thematic choice, to reflect Poe's, state of mind. We see it most in his 1v1 fight versus the chameleon. But at that point he has been thrown for a loop. He's been can I say it? He's like he doesn't know.
Spoilers, guys. Yeah.
But he's not on solid ground right now at this point in the movie, and so we wanted to use the GoPro to really
unbalance him.
To super unbalance him, so that we the audience are like feeling just as confused as he is. Like we're not just on a steady cam, we're not locked camera. We are moving and flowing with him as he's trying to fight this ever shape-shifting villain, who has been really messing with his head. It was really important for us that we actually had a story reason why we used the GoPro.
Yeah, everything had a story reason. We used story to solve every question that we had, right, along the way. Design, story. You were talking about building blocks, like even the city that he goes to, Juniper City. It is an ancient city that has modern buildings on top of it and more modern, and it was like a mix of everything. And that was kind of like everything went back to story and our theme and the environment and the character.
What a great shift in storytelling though, as well, to like position these characters in such a sprawling metropolis of a place. Like it adds such a different flavor to the whole, because before it's very rural or kind of I know in the second one, was Shen in a... No, this is me. I'm just flashing back.
Shen.
I probably could have said Lord Shen had a big city as well.
And what was the city they visited, Stephanie? In the second one, it was very different than this city.
That was called Gongmen City.
Yeah, Gongmen City, and this one it was Juniper City.
Yeah, but you don't see much of the other city, right? You see more Shen's palace, whereas this you're obviously right at the street level for most of this and below.
Yeah, I always say you're at the street level, but we're also having chase sequences up on the rooftops, and then we're also down below where there's a whole nother city of thieves. So
yeah,
pretty daunting. Not great for budget, I'll tell you that much, Cole.
I mean, if you can balance it, then
right.
That's the most important thing. But that adds challenges in itself, because you're dealing with, obviously any environment is different, but you're always trying to push the boundary as to what you're doing. And I know layout and everything, you're trying to create a stage for characters to exist in, but you're also trying to create a world that feels real, so that's detail oriented. So could you talk a little bit about designing the worlds of these spaces that are kind of different and new, but also feeling the same?
Stephanie.
I like you're just lumping these onto Stephanie.
I talk too much. I tend to talk too much. So
yeah. Well,
if you don't want to talk about it, listen, talk about whatever you want.
It's a fantastic question. And again, no, for real, with everything that that goes into film, whether it's animated or live action, everything is designed. Everything is like chosen for a reason, and that reason is like, is it helping to tell the story? So so all of these locations that Poe goes to, it is designed very specifically to challenge his old world views about being the dragon warrior. This is why,
and literally in a contrast to the Valley of Peace, like the Valley of Peace. We tried to make that city as different. It was like, we always say the country mouse and city mouse, like Jen is the city mouse, and Poe is like, oh boy, I've never been to the big city before. Look
Yeah,
at all these guys
without
scrambling.
that accent, yes.
That's my version of it.
That's
Yeah,
your
so I
body.
mean,
Yeah.
Mike summed it up like really well there. But yeah, that's that's basically what we wanted him to feel, is that overwhelming, like, oh man, I really am just a country rural boy, and here I am in this sprawling, like huge, city, that like people don't know who he is. He doesn't understand traffic. Like there's so many new things, for him to experience, and it all helps to shape him, to become the next spiritual leader.
I remembered what I was going to say earlier. You've reminded me about, because we were talking briefly about the idea that you said audiences haven't changed, Mike, right? Or sensibilities haven't. And I totally agree, because if you really think about it, like storytelling has been around as long as humanity, and the same story threads have been there the whole time. Whether it's mythology, religions, whatever way we sum it down to, ultimately the same story beats are going to capture people's attention all the time. And I think you guys have balanced that really well in this. Actually, it was quite intriguing the whole way.
Thank you. And yeah, I mean, it's a discussion. It's like where it's like maybe the way we get information and entertainment is different, but I still think an audience, and I disagree that oh well, there's shorter attention spans or whatnot. I don't believe that either. Like there's still like if you make a long movie, we've like everyone will sit through it and love it and enjoy it, and it's like, I don't know. It feels like a cop out of like, well, it's a different time. We've got to reset everything. It's like, no, it's just like, follow. It's what Stephanie and I try to do. We really try to do a love letter to the first movie. I think that movie holds up. There's a reason we're still looking. It's why I love working on franchises. Why is this character still around? Why do people still want to see this character? A big part of it is of course, Jack Black is incredible. And we love this underdog and we love the hero within. But another reason is like the audience is still there for Kung Fu Panda. It's such a fun combination of action and humor. And like, why it doesn't need to be, I mean, we built upon it as much as we could and we've modernized it with technology and everything else. But it's like, I think the audience is still there to see it. I mean, it's a whole new generation would still love this one on its own. I think that people could watch part 4 without seeing part 1, 2, and 3 and still enjoy it.
I think the really powerful thing about stories, I mean, they all have a couple of things in common. One is they have a beginning, middle, end. That's easy.
Yes, there's still 3 acts to every movie.
But but the other part is that every single story that we tell to each other, or that we see, on the big screen, or that we read, it's when you boil it down to its most basic, essential, it's basically like an instruction manual about how to survive certain situations. And so for me, the most emotional scene of this movie is when Po is fighting Zhen, and they're really going at it because she you don't have
no spoilers. No spoilers before.
I can't use any of this interview. Yeah.
Right, but they have a really intense emotional fight, and I think, you won't be able to use this, but I think for me, what's really great about Po, in that moment, is that he learns to forgive this person who really trampled upon him. And like that takes, I think that is like probably one of the most heroic things that you can do is say like, yeah, you know what, you hurt me, but you were also in pain, and maybe I didn't see that. And so let's move past this. I forgive you. So, I mean, I can take a lot of inspiration from that. Like, holy shit.
It's also hard, Stephanie, to evolve a character like Po. Like he's learned so much in part 1 and 2 and 3, and it was like you really had to go inward to get to his evolution. It was like really, really difficult. But yeah, you can't write any of that though, Cole.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, this is a video interview, so it's but you've put something in my soul, Stephanie, and maybe I should call my ex. You're totally right.
There you go. Forgive.
Maybe I should, forgive. People see trilogies as like lock, stocked, and closed. right? They always see a fourth one potentially as an epilogue. If you look at Toy Story, it's pretty well closed. You know, Kung Fu Panda 1, 2, 3, very well nurtured story as well. But like you said, there's something interesting here that can keep a franchise open. I'd like to then maybe at the end, maybe question you guys about the beginning of finding this story and why was it important to tell outside of what you've already said.
For me, it was important because I wasn't going to work on this film unless it was a great story. I mean, these films are so hard. I mean, your audience knows, Cole, how much passion and time and energy it takes to put into an animated film, whether it's a TV show or a feature. And especially for this one, a beloved franchise, Stephanie and I did not want to invest a second of our time unless this was going to be a big movie that everyone's going to want to see in the theater. And we designed it for the theater and we made it big, and not just visually, but with sound and everything. And that's why we're so thankful, Cole, that you're promoting our film and getting people interested to see it. Because we didn't want to, I mean, it was a matter of not working. I would have rather not worked on this film if it wasn't going to be worthy of an evolution of the character, an evolution of the story, and just get people thinking in a different way than the previous three. It was dramatic. I wouldn't have worked. I would have done something else.
What drew me to this particular franchise is definitely Poe, just being the character that he is. I feel like with the advent of like the internet and things like TikTok, Instagram, this sort of obsession with like showing your most glamorous life online all the time. I feel like what's really great about Poe is that it's okay for him to make mistakes and to mess up in really funny ways because he always gets right back up again and he brushes himself off, and then he makes everyone around him really really happy and just like feel good about themselves. And I feel like there's always going to be a need for characters like that. And so I think for him to be able to continue his stories in like subsequent movies, I think that's really a gift and a blessing for many audience members.
I love that.
Yeah, there's a humor to his failure. I like that, Stephanie. I could learn that.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from this conversation, to be honest. Immediately.
Much to discuss. We should do a follow-up, Cole.
Yeah, I know. The guys are telling me to wrap. I want to say thank you so much, guys. Mike, I'm a big fan of your work. I didn't say it from the outset. So thank you so much. And thanks. Stephanie, to talk to the story Duke herself is a great pleasure. So listen, guys, I hope you have a good day. Thank you so much for your time and good luck with the film.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cole.